Love is being vulnerable. C.S. Lewis. What if I told you that love is actually about giving yourself completely, without reservations, without fear? Imagine that, in order to be truly happy, you had to allow yourself to be vulnerable? I know, it may seem scary, but the true strength of love lies precisely in its fragility. Trust, affection, and care are only genuine when you allow yourself to be who you really are, without masks. Love is not about control. It's not about possession. It's about opening yourself to the other, even knowing there is a risk of pain. C.S. Lewis was right. Love is being vulnerable. The true beauty of love lies not in certainties, but in the courage to give yourself, to live in the moment, to be transparent with your heart. When you expose yourself, when you surrender, you become strong in a way you never imagined. It is in this vulnerability that we find true connection. Have you ever stopped to think that maybe you have closed yourself off, afraid of being hurt? What if it's time to allow yourself to live a love that transforms you, that leads you to new paths? It doesn't matter how much you have been hurt before. Real love calls you to this surrender. It makes you grow. It frees you from the chains of fear. It's not easy, but it's when you open up that the greatest discoveries happen. Soon, I will tell you a story that will show the power of vulnerability in love. A story that will stir your emotions and make you reflect on everything you have lived and what you can still experience. Stay tuned. You won't want to miss the next chapter of this journey. Love is being vulnerable. The strength of surrender. What if I told you that love is not about being perfect, but about surrendering without reservations? Imagine being able to give everything of yourself, without fear, without hesitation. What if, to find true happiness, you needed to allow yourself to be vulnerable, even knowing the risks? C.S. Lewis said, "Love is being vulnerable." But do you have the courage to live this love? We all seek security in love, we seek control. But what if the true strength of love lies precisely in surrender? Imagine a love where there are no masks, where trust is real, and vulnerability is the key to a deep bond. C.S. Lewis was right. The true beauty of love lies in the courage to surrender completely, without fear, without reservations. In a world where everyone tries to protect themselves from feelings, Maria and João met in a moment of pain. Both carried wounds from the past, but fate brought them together in a way that would challenge everything they believed about love. Their encounter would not only be the beginning of a story, but a lesson about what it means to love truly. And most importantly, about what it means to open up. Maria, with her heart armored by disappointments, avoided surrendering completely. João, on the other hand, was transparent, unafraid to show his vulnerability. The big question was, how could she trust love again? João challenged her, not with words, but with his own example. He invited her to live a unique experience, to be vulnerable, to allow herself to feel without the barriers that protected her. With each moment of closeness, Maria felt the temptation to close up again, to protect herself. The fear of suffering was stronger than the desire to love. But João, with his sincere gaze and courage, made her question everything she knew about love. Being vulnerable didn't mean weakness. Deep down, she knew her greatest strength was in allowing herself. But doubt was still there. Would she be able to take that step? Time passed, and Maria gradually began to realize that her greatest resistance wasn't the fear of love but the fear of losing herself in another person. However, João surprised her. He didn't want to possess her, he just wanted to share his life with her. This small gesture, this shift in perspective, made her start to open up to vulnerability in a way she had never imagined. Their love was transforming, and Maria was finally ready to surrender. On the night Maria feared the most, the unexpected happened. João, with his open and vulnerable heart, made a difficult choice. He stepped away. Not because he didn't love her, but because he knew she needed to learn to surrender on her own. It was in that moment of pain and separation that Maria finally understood. Vulnerability was not a weakness, it was the only way to find true freedom in love. Maria found herself alone, but now, instead of feeling lost, she felt stronger. The pain of separation began to be replaced by a sense of growth. She knew she needed to give herself a second chance, not to the love she feared, but to her own ability to love with vulnerability. What she didn't know was that the real transformation was about to happen, and the reunion with João would mark the beginning of this journey of self-discovery. Months later, fate reunited Maria and João again. But now, things were different. She no longer sought him to heal her wounds but to share the strength she had found within herself. They loved each other, but no longer with the fear of loss. They surrender to love without reservations, without expectations, only with the trust that, by showing their vulnerability, they would find the strength that only true love can provide. Maria and Joao's story teaches us that true love doesn't demand perfection. It demands courage. The courage to be vulnerable, to expose yourself without fear. It is there in fragility that we find the true connection, the true strength. When you surrender, even in fear, that is when love happens most deeply. And what if, instead of protecting yourself, you allowed yourself to be vulnerable? What would you discover about yourself and about love? And if it were you, what would you do when faced with the opportunity to love with courage and vulnerability? Share your story in the comments. What does love mean to you? Subscribe to the channel, like the video, and stay with us. There is much more to discover about how love can transform our lives. Let's go together on this journey.
20 love quotes that inspire words that touch the heart and light the way to deeper connections and a life full of purpose. Don't wait. Click the link now, get your copy, and start the transformation you deserve today. Love is the secret to your new journey.